Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make Boston brown bread. Now that's Boston in Massachusetts rather than Boston in Lincolnshire in England. And this is a very old-fashioned bread which can these days, I understand, be bought in a tin ready to bake. And traditionally the Boston brown bread was steamed in a £1 coffee can, so a can that had ground coffee or something in it, and these days many people use a 28-ounce tin, 800 grams tin, that has contained something like tomatoes, as long as the tin is food safe to go into the steamer. I'm not going to use, well, those tins are difficult to get in the UK, although you can get the smaller tomato tins and baked bean tins and such like, but I'm not going to use one of those. Instead, I'm going to use a £1 loaf tin. So this is 7.25 inches in length, and I think it was 3.5 inches in width and 2.5 inches deep. And that's going to be ideal for this recipe. I've filled this with water and it holds 840 grams of water, so I know that that's enough for my recipe. I also know that it's enough for the recipe because I made it yesterday just as a test. So it's a very simple recipe. It contains rye flour, whole wheat or wholemeal flour, cornmeal, molasses and buttermilk, and then raising agents. So really that's about it. Now I should say I'm going to put some raisins in mine. Very often apparently the Boston brown bread did have raisins, but that's optional. If you don't like raisins you can leave that out. So I'll go on to the ingredients, and as I start the ingredients I'll just mention that I have a pot of water in a large pan which is just coming up to the boil, and I've stood for my purposes a little silicone trivet in the bottom of that pot, but you can use an upturned saucer or something if you want to, or an upturned plate in the bottom. That's just to raise this pan off the surface of the base of the cooking pot. So for the ingredients I have here 60 grams, which is 6 tablespoons of rye flour. I have 60 grams, 6 tablespoons of wholemeal flour, 55 grams, 6 tablespoons of cornmeal. I have 200 millilitres, which is half a cup plus a third of a cup of buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk, you can take half a cup and a third of a cup of milk, take out maybe a tablespoon and replace it with vinegar or lemon juice, and that leave it for 10 minutes and that will make buttermilk for you. I have 21 grams, 1.5 tablespoons of butter unsalted, which I have melted. I have 1 gram, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 3.5 grams to 4 grams, but 3.5 grams, which is almost a teaspoon of baking soda. I have 70 grams of molasses, which is 1/4 cup, and I have 40 grams of raisins, which again is 1/4 cup. So that's all the ingredients. And just for reference I thought I would show you at this stage, because this is the one I'm going to taste when we do our taste test later. This is the one that I made yesterday, and it's a nice dense loaf. So the one I'm making today will actually be saved for my sister. She wants it, so I'm going to give it to her when she comes round later in the week. So that's all the ingredients, and we're simply going to mix all those together and put them into our tin. And to start off with, I'm going to put the dry ingredients into a larger bowl. So the cornmeal, the wholemeal flour, the rye flour, baking soda, baking powder, and I'm going to mix those around. I'm going to give you a good mix because some of the flours sometimes clump a little bit. The rye flour clumps, and I want to just make sure I've got that broken up. And I'll set that to one side for a moment, and into a smaller bowl I'm going to put my buttermilk, and my molasses, or black treacle I should say. You can use black treacle. Now I greased this dish, which is going to help the very sticky molasses come out. And I'm going to put the butter in as well. And then I'm going to whisk those to get them combined. And just set that to one side, and I'm going to put my raisins into my dry mixture and just stir those around. And then I'm going to pour the wet mixture in. And I'm going to stir that around and get it fully combined. And the baking soda will start to react almost immediately with the buttermilk, which is acidic. So with that mixed around, I'm simply going to put that into my loaf pan, which I have greased. And I'm going to spread that around to level it off. Like that, and then I'm going to cover that with some aluminium foil, which I have greased with some oil. I'm just going to brush that again just to spread it around. I'm going to put that onto my tin and press down like that all the way round, and then I'm just going to press it up into the rim of my pan like that. And that's good like that. So that then needs to go into my pot. Now I have my pot already prepared with boiling water basically. And I'll just set that to the side for a moment and bring my pot over. So there I have my pot with boiling water, and I have a silicone trivet in like that, which I'm going to place my pan onto, and I want the water to come halfway up the pan, which it does. Like that. So then I'm going to cover that, and I'm going to put it onto the stove, and I'm going to simmer that for about 2 hours. So I'll keep an eye on it as it simmers, and I will top the water up so that it's always roughly halfway up the side. And after an hour and 50 minutes to 2 hours, I will take the loaf tin out of the pan, remove the foil and just test it with a skewer, and if the skewer comes out clean, that will tell me that it's done. Then I'm going to leave it in the pan, in the loaf pan, for 20 minutes before I then turn it out onto a wire rack so that it can cool completely. And once it's cooled completely, I'll come back and show you what that looks like, and we'll have a taste of the one which I made yesterday. I steamed the Boston brown bread for 1 hour and 55 minutes, and then I tested it. I took it out of the saucepan and took the silver or aluminium foil off, tested it with a skewer, and it came out clean. So I left it in the loaf tin for 20 minutes, and then I turned it out onto a wire rack so that it can cool down, and it's still cooling down, but this is what it looks like. So this is the one which I've just steamed. It looks very, very good indeed. I personally prefer it served the other way up, like this, which is upside down, but whatever you want to do. And I have just put some butter onto a slice of the one which I made yesterday so that I can have a taste. And I should say that you can put some butter on it, or some cream cheese, or butter it with some cheese. Serve it however you want. This is not a sweet loaf because there's no sugar in it. There's a slight sweetness to the black treacle or the molasses, but this is more of a savoury type of dish. And so I'll have a taste of the one which I have buttered. It has a lovely flavour to it. You can taste the black treacle or the molasses, but it's not overpowering. It just comes through very nicely. I got a little bit of sweetness from a raisin which I encountered as well, but it's very, very good. I think you could also add in some chopped nuts if that's the sort of thing you wanted to do. And as I said, you can make this in a tin, and I should say that if you don't have a small £1 tin like I used, loaf tin, you can use a £2 loaf tin, but you just simply double the recipe. I calculated it, and if you double the recipe and put it into a £2 loaf tin and steam that, that will work just as well, but you may need to steam it for slightly longer. I would still test it after hour and 50 minutes, 2 hours, but if it needs a bit longer, put it back and steam it for a little bit longer. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please click to subscribe and give me the thumbs up below. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.